Hello family, enjoy this relaxing moment with Charm Stories. Remember to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comment section. Also generously hit the like button cause it means the world to us. Please sit back, relax and enjoy as we dive into the story. Vanessa Hayes woke well before dawn each day, her alarm cutting through the stillness of the night. She had long grown accustomed to sacrificing sleep for the sake of her dreams, and, more importantly, for the sake of her husband, Lucas. At 32, Vanessa was determined to create a stable life for the two of them. She juggled her small but promising catering business with night shifts at a local hotel, all while taking online courses to improve her craft. In her mind, every slice of bread buttered and every hour of lost rest were investments in their shared future. The day typically began in her modest kitchen. She would fuss over fresh ingredients, methodically arranging them into elegant lunchboxes. Her reputation for quality and care was slowly growing, albeit in small increments. Yet no matter how tired she felt, the thought of Lucas's proud smile fueled her. He often woke much later, claiming he spent his nights studying market trends for the next big investment that would catapult them into financial security. Vanessa believed in him wholeheartedly, cooking eggs and bacon while he sipped coffee and outlined ambitious plans for the day. "You'll see," Lucas would say, leaning against the doorframe as she packed her catering van. "My research is about to pay off big time." "I believe you," Vanessa always replied, her eyes lighting up with admiration. She wanted nothing more than to see him succeed. Lucas had not always been the picture of confidence and vision. Early in their marriage, he struggled to hold a steady job. Despite the financial hurdles, Vanessa never let him feel like a failure. After all, she had enough hope for the both of them. When he voiced a desire to manage their finances, claiming he had a knack for spotting lucrative opportunities, she agreed without hesitation. If trusting him could push them forward, she was all in. Every morning, she left a quiet house filled with her husband's untapped dreams and returned to the same place late at night, only to collapse into bed. Yet she never resented it. In fact, her sacrifices made her feel purposeful. In their tiny living room, the two would collapse together on the sofa, discussing the day's events in hushed, tired voices. She took solace in their shared fatigue. It felt like a promise of better days ahead. What she did not realize was that Lucas's sweet words and big promises were slowly weaving a trap. The man she trusted above all else would prove to be the storm that upended everything she'd built. And on the night he broke her completely, she would discover that her unwavering devotion had a price, one that would cost her every penny and more. During one sweltering summer afternoon, Vanessa found herself juggling a large catering order for a corporate lunch while her phone buzzed incessantly in her apron pocket. She ignored it at first, carefully plating an array of gourmet sandwiches and salads. But when the buzzing refused to stop, she excused herself and pulled out her phone. It was Lucas. "Van, I've done it." His voice boomed with excitement. "I found the perfect investment opportunity, the one that will change our lives." "What do you mean?" she asked, pressing the phone to her ear and trying not to sound too skeptical, though her heart pounded with hope. "A friend of a friend introduced me to a private real estate group. They're looking for quick capital to buy undeveloped land near the city. Once we secure it, the value could skyrocket. We just need to get in now before they open it up to the public." Vanessa could almost picture Lucas pacing their small living room, eyes bright with possibility. She'd seen him get excited over smaller ventures in the past, buying a used coffee truck, dabbling in artisanal candlemaking, but none had panned out substantially. Yet something in his tone convinced her that this time was different. "How much are we talking about?" she asked, swallowing hard. The corporate lunch deadline loomed, but curiosity got the best of her. "That's the catch," Lucas said, voice dropping into a conspiratorial whisper. "They need a significant down payment to let me in. But the return could be huge, like, set us up for life huge. We might have to liquidate everything to make it work." A flicker of apprehension stirred in Vanessa's stomach. "Everything?" "Lucas, that's our emergency fund, my business savings. It's everything we've worked for." "I know," he murmured. "Trust me. You said you believed in me, right? If we jump in now, we could be unstoppable. We'll never have to worry about rent or bills again. We'll own our own home, maybe even that dream restaurant you've always talked about." His words painted a breathtaking picture in her mind, a gleaming restaurant with her name on the door, a bustling clientele, her cooking recognized city-wide. She exhaled slowly, thinking of the hours she spent working 2 jobs to accumulate what little nest egg they had. Yet the idea of catapulting them into a better future was irresistible. "All right," she said finally, her voice trembling with a blend of hope and fear. "If you really believe this is it, then let's do it. I trust you." And that was how she handed over the sum total of their life savings, an act of faith that would soon become her darkest regret. It was supposed to be a day of celebration. Vanessa had scheduled a rare evening off to mark the final deposit into Lucas's big venture. She'd even picked up a bottle of cheap champagne on her way home, determined to toast to their bright new future. The sun was just beginning to set when she pulled up to their modest rental. Something felt off the moment she approached the front door. The shades were drawn, and the door stood slightly ajar. A cold shiver shot down her spine. She stepped inside, calling out for Lucas. The echo of her own voice was unnerving. There was none of the usual clutter of daily life, no laptop or jacket lying around. As she flicked on the living room light, her pulse quickened in horror. The room was bare. Gone were the worn couch and coffee table where they had shared dreams and late-night dinners. The walls were stripped of photos and decorations. Even the pictures of their wedding, which once adorned a small side table, had vanished. She raced down the narrow hallway to the bedroom. It was as if the place had been ransacked. The closet doors were open, and all of Lucas's clothes were gone, along with every piece of furniture she and Lucas jointly owned. "Lucas!" she yelled, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. "Lucas, if you're here, answer me." Silence. Her breathing became shallow as she hurried through the kitchen, finding only empty counters and a lone sticky note that read, "I'll explain everything, Lucas." Her eyes darted around, searching for any trace of him or their belongings, but there was nothing else. She was alone in a hollowed-out shell of their home. In a panic, she rushed to check the bank accounts on her phone. The moment she logged in, her hands trembled violently. Zero balance. The emergency fund, the catering business account, wiped clean. A swirl of disbelief and betrayal fought for dominance in her mind. Had someone broken in? Had Lucas been kidnapped? But as the reality sank in, an icy chill swept through her. It was no burglary. Tears blurred her vision, but anger soon kindled within her chest. Lucas had taken everything, her trust, her savings, and every last possession of value. She thought about calling the police, but what would she say? Her husband robbed her? The shock was so overwhelming that she collapsed onto the bare living room floor. The warm tears streaming down her face mingled with the bitter taste of betrayal on her lips. She stayed there for what felt like hours, her mind replaying every conversation, every assurance he'd given her, until it finally dawned on her that he had planned this from the start. After the initial wave of shock subsided, Vanessa scrambled for her phone, hoping to find some explanation. She searched through text messages, voicemails, emails, anything that could piece together how Lucas had orchestrated such a betrayal. It was then that she discovered a single unread text from him, sent late that afternoon. "I needed to do this for myself. You'll understand someday." The short message was chilling in its brevity. It offered no apology, no remorse, only a vague justification for the havoc he had just unleashed. Vanessa's hands shook as she reread the text, struggling to reconcile this curt note with the man she thought she knew. She dialed his number in a frenzy, tears and rage warring within her. The line rang repeatedly before going straight to voicemail. She tried again and again, each time receiving the same silent rejection. Finally, she pressed the phone to her ear long enough to leave a message. "Lucas, I don't understand. What have you done? Please, just call me back. I need to know why." She ended the call, her voice barely steady. Questions raced through her mind. Where had he gone? Why had he done this? The man who once professed unyielding devotion had just severed every tie, taking her entire livelihood with him. It was as if a portion of her own soul had been ripped away, leaving a gaping void. Later that night, she attempted to contact mutual friends and acquaintances, but it seemed Lucas had cut ties with them as well. His social media accounts had been wiped clean, no trace of his location or intentions. It was both infuriating and terrifying. The carefully woven tapestry of their life had unraveled in a single day, and she was left clinging to loose threads, unsure of how to tie them back together. By the early hours of the morning, her emotions cycled through despair and cold determination. She had no illusions. She was broke, alone, and betrayed. But she refused to crumble for good. If she could muster just a shred of her old self, the one who hustled day and night for her business, maybe she could find a way forward. She shut off the lamp in the empty living room, forcing herself to sleep on the hard floor, certain of only one thing: her life was forever changed, and there was no going back. The next day dawned with crushing reality. With no furniture, no money, and no sign of Lucas, Vanessa faced eviction almost immediately. Her landlord, unsympathetic to her predicament, gave her a strict deadline to pay or vacate. And vacate she did. She barely had a carload of personal items left. Some clothes, small kitchen gadgets from her catering gigs, a few photos she'd saved on her phone, and her catering van. She packed what she could into her dilapidated sedan, a relic from her college days. The van, once a symbol of her budding catering career, sat idle since she couldn't afford to fuel it for large deliveries. When the final notice came, she had no choice but to leave behind the empty rental house. She watched as the landlord changed the locks, her heart aching with the finality of losing even that small, imperfect sanctuary. The first night, she parked her car in a 24-hour grocery store lot, telling herself it was a temporary solution. She lay across the back seat, hugging a rolled-up sweater as a makeshift pillow. The neon glow from the store's sign seeped through the windows, offering a cold, unfeeling kind of light. She felt exposed and humiliated, as if the entire world could see how far she'd fallen. She tried to distract herself by recalling better times: the first date with Lucas, their quiet wedding at the courthouse, how they'd toasted with cheap sparkling wine. But each memory quickly soured. How long had he been planning this? Did he ever love her, or was she just a means to an end? Questions swirled in her mind, making sleep impossible. The next few days blurred into a routine of survival. She searched her pockets and car seats for spare change to buy a cheap cup of coffee for breakfast. She drove around aimlessly, looking for a safe place to park each night. Her phone, rapidly losing battery, became her only link to the outside world. Yet she couldn't bring herself to tell anyone. Her pride kept her isolated. A glimmer of hope came from her catering connections. A few smaller clients still owed her final payments. She gathered her courage and contacted them, hoping that chasing down these outstanding invoices might at least buy her some groceries. Yet the money was minimal, and the shame of admitting her situation kept gnawing at her. Throughout this ordeal, one thought anchored her: she needed to find a way out. She was not a quitter, and she would not let Lucas's betrayal define her. If she could survive sleeping in her car, she could survive anything. After 5 days of living in her car, exhaustion weighed on every muscle in Vanessa's body. One morning, she found herself parked in a diner's lot, scrounging up enough coins to buy a single cup of coffee. She walked in, feeling the burn of curious eyes on her rumpled clothes and tired face. Still, the warmth of the mug in her hands momentarily soothed her. At a corner booth, an older couple was absorbed in conversation. She overheard snippets, something about a viral post, outraged comments, and a name that sounded vaguely familiar. She tried to ignore it until she heard the words, Vanessa Hayes. Her heart nearly stopped. Leaning closer, she caught a full sentence. That poor woman, scammed by her husband. It's all over Facebook. Her stomach flipped, a sickening blend of embarrassment and apprehension. How could people already know? She frantically pulled out her phone, using the diner's Wi-Fi to scour social media. Within seconds, she found it, a post on a popular local forum with the title, Husband Scams Wife, Leaves Her Homeless. It included all the humiliating details, a summary of how her catering business money and savings had disappeared overnight, along with her husband. Thousands of comments poured in, ranging from seething anger at Lucas to heartfelt sympathy for her. People asked how they could help, if someone could start a GoFundMe, or whether legal action was underway. Some comments were cruel, accusing Vanessa of being naive or complicit. But the overwhelming majority took her side, labeling Lucas a con artist. Vanessa's cheeks burned hot. She had never wanted her personal tragedy to be the subject of online gossip. Yet a flicker of relief surfaced. Maybe this exposure could be her chance to find help or resources. She quietly left the diner, the single cup of coffee still unfinished, feeling both grateful for the internet's collective empathy and mortified by the public spectacle. In the hours that followed, her phone exploded with notifications. Strangers offering her words of comfort, small donations, or even job leads. One message stood out in particular, from a man named Jordan Blackwell, claiming to be a local entrepreneur. He wrote, "I admire your resilience. I think we should talk. I have a proposition that might help you rebuild." She stared at the message, torn between hope and caution. Was this another sweet-talking opportunist, or a genuine lifeline? After considering the viral storm that had already swept her life into the public eye, she decided to respond. Vanessa met Jordan Blackwell in a bustling cafe she found through GPS. Even in her disheveled state, hair hastily pulled back, clothes wrinkled from nights in her car, she greeted him with a forced smile. Jordan, a tall man with sharp features and a warm handshake, was dressed in an impeccably tailored suit. His confidence was palpable but not overbearing. "Vanessa, I appreciate you meeting me. I know this must be a difficult time," he said, leading her to a quiet table near the back. She tried to steady her nerves. "Thank you for reaching out. I'm not exactly in a position to be picky right now." They settled into their seats. Jordan ordered 2 lattes, and as soon as the waiter left, he got straight to the point. "I'm aware of your story. I learned about your catering business. Apparently, you have a good reputation for quality." A faint smile tugged at her lips. "I always tried to put love into my cooking. My clients seemed to notice." Jordan nodded. "I run a series of small ventures, including a startup incubator. I specialize in helping businesses with potential find their footing, especially if they have a compelling story or a unique angle." She listened, her caution mingling with curiosity. "Okay, so how does this relate to me?" "I want to help you rebuild," he said simply. "I believe people are already invested in your story. There's sympathy, outrage, and a desire to see you succeed despite what happened. If you're willing, I'd like to invest in you. I'll provide the capital you need to restart your catering business, but on a bigger scale." Vanessa's heart fluttered. "That's amazing. But I have to be honest, I don't even have a place to live right now, let alone any equipment beyond what I could salvage." He folded his hands, choosing his words carefully. "I'll give you the resources to stand up your operation again. Kitchens, staff, marketing. But there's a catch. You'll need to dedicate yourself fully to making this work. I want a partner who has skin in the game, so to speak." She thought about Lucas's betrayal, the trust she had misplaced. The idea of entering into another business relationship made her uneasy. "How do I know this isn't another empty promise?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Jordan leaned forward, empathy in his eyes. "Look, I'm aware you've been burned. I'll draw up transparent contracts. You'll own the majority of the business. I just ask that you keep pushing and never give up. My success depends on yours." After a moment's hesitation, she reached for the latte, took a small sip, and finally said, "All right, I'm in." In that crowded cafe, she forged an alliance with a stranger who offered more than a job. He offered redemption. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, even if a small voice inside her warned that trust could be a dangerous game. True to his word, Jordan arranged a formal meeting at his downtown office, a sleek space with open-concept work areas and glass-walled conference rooms. Vanessa, still living out of her car, felt out of place among employees dressed in business-casual attire, but the staff treated her with kindness once they recognized her from the online story. Jordan's legal advisor, a no-nonsense woman named Cora, walked Vanessa through every document in painstaking detail. The deal was straightforward. Jordan's startup incubator would invest a substantial sum to cover the costs of professional kitchen space, the hiring of additional staff, and a marketing campaign to relaunch Vanessa's catering business under a new brand name, Hayes & Company. Vanessa would retain a 60% stake, with Jordan holding 40%. Profits would be split accordingly, and Jordan's team would provide strategic guidance. Cora watched her carefully. "Are you comfortable with this arrangement? We want to ensure you fully understand the terms." Vanessa swallowed hard, scanning the numbers. It was far beyond anything she had ever managed before. She glanced over at Jordan, who offered a reassuring nod. Then she remembered the feeling of helplessness in her car, the devastation of seeing her bank account emptied. "Yes, I am," she said, her voice resolute. She placed the pen on the signature line, signing her name with a flourish that felt both liberating and terrifying. When the papers were finalized, Jordan stood and extended his hand. "Welcome aboard," he said warmly. She shook it, her mind already racing with ideas for menus and expansions. "So, where do I start?" Jordan led her to a small conference room lined with whiteboards. A neat stack of colored markers stood on a table. "We start by figuring out exactly what Hayes & Company will offer. Think big, catering for corporate events, weddings, private parties, maybe even a meal subscription service. The sky's the limit if we play this right." In the hours that followed, Vanessa's excitement began to overshadow her lingering doubts. She filled the whiteboards with menu concepts, brand values, and short-term goals. She felt a spark of the old Vanessa returning, the one who thrived on ambition and creativity. As the sun dipped low in the cityscape outside, Jordan ordered takeout for the team, and they continued brainstorming late into the night. By the end of the session, Vanessa was exhausted yet exhilarated. She quietly thanked Jordan before leaving. The notion of sleeping in her car that night still stung, but this time it felt like a temporary setback rather than a permanent fate. She had a deal, one that could transform her life. For the first time since losing everything, she believed she might just be able to reclaim her future. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Under Jordan's guidance, Vanessa secured a rental kitchen, complete with top-of-the-line ovens and ample storage for fresh produce. She was finally able to use her catering van again, this time to transport goods to and from the new kitchen. The smell of baking bread and simmering sauces once more filled her days, transporting her to a realm of comfort and creativity that she had nearly forgotten. Jordan introduced her to a small team of professionals who specialized in marketing, operations, and customer service. At first, Vanessa felt overwhelmed, unsure how to delegate tasks she had always done herself. She'd never been in a leadership position on such a scale. Yet, day by day, she grew into the role. The staff admired her resilience and drive, eager to help her succeed. One afternoon, she gathered her team in the freshly painted office adjoining the kitchen. Each person brought a background in event planning, graphic design, or social media outreach. Vanessa stood at the front, her posture still tentative, but her voice grew in confidence as she addressed them. "We're not just making food, we're creating experiences. I want every event we cater to have a personal touch, a sense of warmth that reflects how much we care." Applause followed her short speech, and she felt a small swell of pride. She was no longer just an overworked wife with a side hustle. She was the head of her own company, with the backing to make her culinary vision a reality. However, the shift came with its challenges. Long nights in the kitchen were now matched by marathon strategy sessions. Contracts for large events demanded precise attention to detail, from budgets to portion sizes. Each step reminded her of what she'd lost and what she now stood to gain. Despite the mounting pressure, Vanessa found solace in the knowledge that she was working for herself, and, in a way, for every single person who had believed in her after Lucas's betrayal. She might still sleep in her car, but she was no longer directionless. The blueprint for her future was unfolding before her, and for the first time in a long while, she felt that success was within reach. Meanwhile, her personal story kept making waves online. With Jordan's marketing team's skillful guidance, Hayes & Company launched social media pages, quickly gaining followers. People were captivated by the tale of a woman who had been left with nothing but her determination, only to bounce back with incredible tenacity. Images of Vanessa in her new kitchen, bright apron donned, circulated on platforms like Instagram and TikTok. Captions highlighted her journey, from betrayal to business owner, or rebuilding after heartbreak, one dish at a time. The story tugged at viewers' heartstrings, prompting them to like, comment, and share. Orders started pouring in, ranging from small birthday parties to larger corporate gatherings. Some of her first big clients were small tech startups that identified with her scrappy resilience. Then came an unexpected breakthrough. A prominent local influencer posted a video tasting Hayes & Company's catering samples, praising the flavors as out-of-this-world delicious. Within hours, Vanessa's phone pinged with new messages and event requests. The weeks that followed were a blur of activity. Vanessa hired more kitchen staff to keep up with demand. She frequently appeared in short social media clips, always with a humble, down-to-earth demeanor that contrasted sharply with her skyrocketing success. In quiet moments, usually late at night after cleaning the kitchen, she would scroll through thousands of supportive comments. Strangers cheered her on, offering words of encouragement and lauding her ability to thrive despite personal tragedy. Although she rarely posted about Lucas directly, the subtext was clear. He had been the catalyst for her downfall, and watching her flourish felt like a universal victory against betrayal. The sudden influx of revenue finally allowed her to move out of her car. Jordan arranged a small studio apartment for her close to the kitchen. The first night she slept in an actual bed again, she cried tears of gratitude. As she stared at the ceiling in the darkness, she realized she was on a trajectory she never would have believed possible just weeks earlier. Far away from the chaos he had left behind, Lucas sipped a fruity cocktail while lounging by a massive swimming pool in a sprawling mansion. He had successfully siphoned off Vanessa's life savings and used it to boost his own credit and cash reserves, investing in a risky but lucrative stock option that had briefly ballooned his accounts. Reclining in a plush pool chair, he watched his new girlfriend, Rebecca, splashing playfully in the water. Rebecca was younger, an aspiring model enamored with his newfound wealth. The mansion they shared wasn't fully his. He was renting it with the intention to buy, but that mattered little to him. Appearances were everything, and to outsiders, he was a man of substantial means. He'd cut all ties to his previous life, meticulously removing any trace of Vanessa from his social media and phone contacts. In moments of fleeting guilt, he reassured himself that she would bounce back. After all, she was capable. He had chosen her for her resourcefulness. Besides, he rationalized, he deserved a life of luxury after enduring so many financial disappointments. When the phone rang, he snatched it up eagerly, expecting a business associate or perhaps a congratulatory call about a recent stock gain. Instead, he saw an unfamiliar number. Against his better judgment, he answered. An angry voice erupted on the other end. "Lucas, you scumbag. I hope you realize the whole internet hates your guts for what you did to Vanessa. I don't know how you sleep at night." He hung up swiftly, blood draining from his face. He'd been receiving random calls like these more frequently. The viral post about his betrayal had circulated widely, though Lucas tried to remain indifferent. He blocked the number and turned to Rebecca, forcing a grin. "Let's head out for some shopping," he said, refusing to let a stranger's hostility sour his afternoon. Yet a subtle tension gripped him, a nagging sense of unease. For all his outward confidence, a small part of him feared that Vanessa, if pushed to the edge, might come back to haunt him in ways he couldn't imagine. Back in her buzzing kitchen, Vanessa was reviewing a new catering contract when a bold idea struck her. Over the course of rebuilding Hayes and Company, she had been approached by various investors and business partners, some of whom had ties to the same circles Lucas once boasted about. Her mind raced with the possibility that she could infiltrate the very investment networks he used. In a meeting with Jordan, she laid out her plan. "I want to discreetly buy shares in some of the real estate or stock deals Lucas might be involved in. If I can get a controlling interest somewhere down the line, it could be my first move toward reclaiming what he stole." Jordan raised an eyebrow. "That's aggressive. But given how well Hayes and Company is doing, you do have funds to spare. Are you sure you want to mix business with personal revenge?" She folded her arms, recalling endless nights in her car and the heartbreak she endured. "I won't let vengeance consume me, but I also won't just stand by and watch him thrive on money he stole. Besides, if it's a solid investment, we benefit financially, too." Reluctantly, Jordan agreed, on the condition they proceed with caution and through trusted intermediaries. Over the next few months, Vanessa used a portion of her growing profit to purchase shares in various portfolios connected to Lucas's circle. She remained anonymous, funneling the investments through shell companies set up with Jordan's legal counsel. The strategy offered her an odd sense of empowerment. Each signed purchase order felt like a small triumph, a step toward undoing the damage Lucas had inflicted. She didn't boast or publicly flaunt these moves. She simply made them, quietly and methodically. At times, she questioned if this was truly the right path. But every time she remembered the ache of betrayal, every time she thought of the countless hours she spent building her dreams from scratch again, she reaffirmed her decision. If Lucas could exploit her kindness and trust, she would exploit his arrogance and greed. Invitations to interviews and talk shows had been pouring in ever since Hayes and Company became a viral sensation. Vanessa was cautious about which invitations to accept. She wanted to focus on her business rather than sensationalize her personal tragedy. However, one particular invitation caught her eye. A major influencer known for philanthropic spotlights wanted to feature her story on a well-subscribed YouTube talk show. Vanessa arrived at a stylish downtown studio, heart fluttering with nerves. Lights, cameras, and staff bustled about as she was ushered onto a minimalist set. The show's host, Tasha Lee, greeted her warmly, offering a quick rundown of the questions she planned to ask. The taping began, and after a brief introduction detailing Vanessa's meteoric rise from homelessness to successful entrepreneur, Tasha leaned in sympathetically. Everyone wants to know more about the betrayal that started all this. Could you tell us, in your own words, what happened with your ex-husband? Vanessa paused, choosing her words carefully. She didn't want to vilify Lucas without cause, but she also refused to sugarcoat his actions. I trusted someone with my entire life savings and with my heart. He decided to take both and leave me with nothing. I was devastated, but I discovered something important. Once you've lost it all, you have nothing left to fear. Tasha nodded, her eyes shining with empathy. That's powerful. How did you find the strength to rebuild? Vanessa took a breath, recalling endless nights doubting herself. I realized I had two choices, give up or fight back. My passion for cooking and the generosity of people like Jordan Blackwell reminded me I wasn't alone. So I fought, day by day, dish by dish. Viewers would later say the moment that gripped them came near the end of the segment. With tears glistening in her eyes, Vanessa looked directly into the camera. I don't hate the person who did this to me. If anything, I'm thankful. His betrayal forced me to become the person I was always meant to be. While she never mentioned Lucas by name, the internet instantly recognized who she was referring to. Clips of the interview went viral, racking up millions of views overnight. Comments poured in, lauding her grace and resilience, while simultaneously dragging Lucas's name through the digital mud. For Lucas, who prided himself on carefully curating his online image, the fallout was brutal. He couldn't scroll through his feeds without being slammed by mocking memes, angry comments, or references to Vanessa's talk show appearance. It was a public humiliation, a scarlet letter that he couldn't easily erase. The dominoes started falling faster than Lucas could dodge them. Despite his initial success with the shady investment deals, a series of poor decisions, excessive spending, high-risk trades, and ill-advised purchases began chipping away at his finances. Several properties he'd hoped to flip languished on the market. Stock options he thought would skyrocket plummeted in value. Even the lavish mansion he was renting came under threat when his monthly rent payments became sporadic. Alarmed, Rebecca confronted him one evening, her glossy nails tapping irritably against a marble countertop. "Lucas, what's going on? I thought you had everything under control. The landlord's been calling me, something about late payments." He tried to maintain a composed facade, swirling a glass of whiskey. "Don't worry, babe. It's just a temporary cash flow problem. I have deals in the pipeline. We'll be fine." But behind his confident words, panic was mounting. The phone calls from creditors became relentless. Some old business partners demanded refunds, claiming Lucas had misrepresented certain investments. Even the hush money he'd paid certain individuals to keep his betrayal of Vanessa under wraps no longer bought their silence. Desperate to keep appearances, Lucas tried to borrow money from acquaintances who were once dazzled by his success. Many turned him down, wary of his precarious situation. The constant negative chatter on social media, fueled by Vanessa's viral story, only made matters worse. He had become the poster child for unscrupulous behavior, and nobody wanted to be associated with him. A pit of despair yawned in his gut each time another deal fell through. He tried to refocus, to recall that unstoppable feeling he once had. But the more he tried, the more he realized his empire was built on shaky ground, funded by stolen money and propped up by empty promises. And once that foundation cracked, everything he'd built came tumbling down. Vanessa had no idea that Lucas's finances were spiraling so quickly. She was too busy expanding Hayes and Company, launching a line of specialty sauces, and forging partnerships with local farms. In the back of her mind, however, she kept tabs on her investments. One day, Jordan approached her with intriguing news. "Remember how you wanted to invest in property linked to Lucas's network?" he asked, handing her a folder. "A real estate firm we've been tracking just listed a mansion for sale. It's the one Lucas has been living in." Vanessa's eyes widened. "He's selling it?" Jordan shook his head. According to public records, it was never fully his. He was renting it with an option to buy, but he fell behind. The owner's putting it on the market. You could purchase it outright. Her heart hammered in her chest. A swirl of emotions, anger, triumph, pity, blended into a heady cocktail. Buying that mansion would be more than a real estate move. It would be a statement. It would be the first tangible step in asserting her power over the man who had reduced her to homelessness. She took a shaky breath. "How soon can we move on this?" Jordan smiled. "I've already made inquiries. They're accepting offers this week. We can finalize a bid immediately." Her first instinct was caution. Expensive real estate wasn't a trivial decision. But the memory of her old life, the nights in her car, and Lucas's smug face obliterated her hesitation. "Let's do it," she said, voice resolute. In less than a week, the deal was done. Vanessa Hayes, through a shell company, became the owner of the very mansion Lucas currently flaunted as his own. The irony was delicious. Part of her wanted to parade this victory in front of him, but she forced herself to remain discreet for the time being. She was playing a long game, and Lucas's day of reckoning was drawing near. News of the mansion's sale traveled fast in certain circles, but Lucas remained blissfully ignorant. He was too busy trying to salvage his sinking finances to pay attention to local real estate transactions. One rainy afternoon, he heard the doorbell echo through the cavernous hall. Opening the door, he was greeted by a somber-looking man wearing a blazer and clutching a clipboard. "Lucas Hayes?" the man asked, extending an official-looking envelope. "That's me," Lucas replied warily. With a curt nod, the man handed him the envelope. "You have 30 days to vacate these premises. The property has been sold. My client will take possession at that time." Lucas's face paled. "This has to be a mistake. I have an agreement with the owner, an option to buy. I'm still within my lease term." The man consulted his papers. "Your lease payments are significantly overdue, and the option to buy was contingent on timely fulfillment. The property owner has the right to sell, and it's already been sold." A swell of panic seized Lucas. He slammed the door shut and tore open the envelope. The legal jargon confirmed his worst fear. He had to vacate. A frantic phone call to his landlord yielded only confirmation. "I've sold the mansion, Lucas. Nothing personal, just business." His chest tightened, and he sank into an ornate chair that might not even be his much longer. How had this happened so quickly? The illusions of grandeur he'd so carefully maintained were crumbling. With a trembling hand, he dialed the number listed for the property management company, leaving a message demanding to meet the new owner. He expected to find some wealthy real estate mogul, maybe a local tycoon. He had no idea who truly lurked behind the transaction. 2 weeks later, under a leaden sky threatening rain, Lucas arrived at the mansion's grand driveway for the scheduled meeting with the new owner. He wore his best suit, though it hung loosely after weeks of stress. A group of curious onlookers and a small cluster of reporters had gathered outside the gates. Word traveled fast in the digital age, and rumors suggested something dramatic was about to unfold. A sleek luxury car purred up to the circular driveway, drawing everyone's gaze. Lucas stood there, arms crossed, determined to charm or intimidate his way out of eviction. The car door opened, revealing a pair of elegant heels. Then Vanessa Hayes stepped out, her posture straight and eyes burning with quiet defiance. The world seemed to stop. Lucas's jaw dropped, color draining from his face as the realization sank in. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and a hushed murmur rippled through the crowd. Vanessa stood before him, impeccably dressed in a tailored blazer, her hair swept back. She exuded a confidence he had never seen before. He opened and closed his mouth, struggling to find words. Finally, he managed a choked whisper, "Vanessa." She took a few measured steps forward, lifting her chin. "Good to see you, Lucas. Welcome to my new home." The crowd erupted in murmurs. A camera crew pushed closer, capturing the stunned look on Lucas's face. Time stretched agonizingly, as if allowing everyone present to fully absorb the gravity of this cosmic shift in power. Vanessa turned to address the cameras, voice calm but resonant. "I never intended for it to come to this. But life has a way of circling back, doesn't it?" The scene crackled with tension, a potent cocktail of public spectacle and personal reckoning. Lucas blinked, struggling to maintain any shred of composure. In a single stroke, Vanessa had reclaimed far more than the money he'd stolen. She'd claimed the upper hand in a grand revenge that was about to reach its apex. The gathered crowd formed a semicircle around them, phones held aloft to capture every moment. Rain began to sprinkle, adding an almost cinematic flair to the showdown. Lucas cleared his throat, trying to salvage some dignity. "Vanessa," he said softly, stepping closer so the cameras wouldn't pick up all of his words. "This is insane. We can work this out, can't we?" She lifted an eyebrow, not budging. "Work it out? You cleaned out our accounts, left me homeless, and vanished without a word." His eyes darted around as the raindrops became more insistent. I made a mistake. I thought I could build us a better life, but things got complicated. Please, can we talk alone?" A bitter laugh escaped her lips. "Talk about what, exactly? How you'd like a second chance now that your empire is falling apart. How you'd promise to never do it again if I just hand over more money." He swallowed hard, tears threatening to well up in his eyes. "I was desperate. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I love you." She looked at him with a mixture of pity and anger. Her voice was steady, strong enough to cut through the patter of rain. "You love me? You loved me so much you took everything I had and left me to rot in the streets." He took a shaky step forward, lowering his voice. "You have every right to hate me. I'm asking for one chance to make things right." She stared at him for a long moment, memories flashing through her mind, the nights in her car, the humiliation, the sting of betrayal. With cameras capturing her every move, she simply said, "You're right about one thing. I do have every right to hate you." Without another word, she turned away, stepping back under a large umbrella offered by a staff member. For Lucas, the cold rain and onlooking crowd provided no shelter from the reality that his time of living large was officially over. The next morning, headlines blazed across social media. "Woman buys mansion out from under ex-husband who stole her money." And "Vanessa Hayes delivers epic revenge." Clips of the confrontation spread like wildfire. In one particular video, just after Lucas pleaded for a second chance, Vanessa delivered a line that would become iconic. Standing under the umbrella, flanked by a small group of her supporters, she faced the cameras and declared, "You stole from me, thinking I'd break. But all you did was make me unstoppable." The phrase ricocheted across the internet, spawning hashtags like #UnstoppableVanessa, #KarmaServed, and #HayesRevenge. Memes and remixes popped up on every platform. News outlets picked up the story, framing it as the ultimate comeback against a manipulative spouse. Late-night talk show hosts cracked jokes at Lucas's expense, while praising Vanessa for her poise and unwavering determination. In less than 24 hours, the video racked up millions of views. Vanessa found herself inundated with messages of support, business inquiries, and even personal thank you notes from people inspired by her resilience. She tried to keep her focus on running Hayes and Company, though her staff practically begged her to capitalize on the viral moment. In a phone call with Jordan, she expressed her unease about all the media attention. "I'm worried people will think this is just a publicity stunt," she admitted. Jordan chuckled. "This kind of publicity can't be bought. You're the real deal, Vanessa, and people see that. Let them celebrate your victory. You've earned it." She sighed, gazing around the opulent interior of the mansion that was now hers. Though she still felt a pang of disbelief, She also recognized the significance of her journey. She had transformed from a betrayed wife into a symbol of resilience. And if her story gave hope to others, then perhaps this very public reckoning wasn't such a bad thing after all. As Lucas scrolled through the onslaught of videos mocking him, his anger and desperation peaked. Surrounded by unopened bills and eviction notices, he felt like a hunted animal. Rebecca, who had grown increasingly distant, no longer offered her usual affections. The lavish lifestyle he promised her was disintegrating before her eyes. In a final frantic bid to save face, and possibly reclaim some of Vanessa's fortune, Lucas contacted a lawyer with a sketchy reputation. "I want to sue Vanessa," he declared, voice shaky but determined. The lawyer raised an eyebrow. "On what grounds?" Lucas hesitated. He didn't have a clear plan. "She humiliated me publicly. She stole my opportunities. She manipulated my business deals behind the scenes." The lawyer leaned back, crossing his arms. "Even if some of that were true, you do realize that the internet is full of evidence that you scammed her first? Moreover, she can easily prove you took her savings. Any lawsuit against her will likely fail, miserably." Lucas stood, pacing the dingy office. "I don't care. File something, anything. I need to fight back." Reluctantly, the lawyer drafted a legal complaint alleging defamation and undue interference in his business dealings. Within days, Vanessa received a summons. Although she felt a pang of dread at being served, her legal team quickly brushed it aside. In a brief court hearing, Lucas's claims were dissected and promptly dismissed as baseless. The judge reprimanded him for wasting the court's time, and Vanessa's legal costs were ordered to be covered by Lucas. It was a swift and humiliating defeat. For Lucas, it was the final nail in his coffin. Public opinion was already against him. Now the legal system had validated Vanessa's stance. He left the courthouse amid jeers and taunts from onlookers, his last desperate gambit blown to pieces. When Lucas returned to the mansion he no longer owned, he found Rebecca waiting for him in the foyer, her arms folded across her chest. Suitcases stood by the door, and a taxi was idling outside. "Rebecca," he asked, voice laced with panic. "Where are you going?" She let out a weary sigh. "I'm done, Lucas. I tried to stick it out, but this is too much. You're broke, humiliated, and it's clear you're never going to bounce back like you promised." He approached her, lowering his voice. "Don't go, please. We can figure something out. I just need a little time." She snatched up her purse. "I'm not wasting any more time on a loser. Everyone online thinks I'm just like you, a heartless grifter. But that's your mess, not mine." His shoulders slumped. "Rebecca, I can fix this, I swear." She shook her head, stepping toward the door. "I doubt that. Good luck, Lucas." With that, she hoisted her bags into the taxi and disappeared, leaving him alone in the echoing emptiness. His reflection in a nearby mirror reminded him of the ghost he'd become. No mansion, no money, no partner. The life he had stolen to build was gone, and the vacuum left behind swallowed any semblance of pride he once had. When the final eviction day arrived, Lucas had no choice but to pack what little remained of his possessions into his sleek sports car, a relic of his once lavish lifestyle. He had liquidated his assets in a futile attempt to settle debts, but it wasn't enough to keep him off the street. Creditors hounded him relentlessly. Lawsuits drained whatever resources he had left. He spent the next few days drifting from motel to motel, each one cheaper than the last, until his credit card was declined for the final time. With nowhere else to turn, he wound up sleeping in his car, ironically mirroring the fate he'd once inflicted upon Vanessa. Sitting behind the wheel in a deserted parking lot, he stared out at a world that no longer welcomed him. Gone were the days of flashy pool parties and high-end shopping sprees. In their place was the grim reality of counting coins for gas and avoiding security guards who knocked on car windows, telling him to move along. Late one night, amid the suffocating silence, he scrolled through social media, now flooded with posts celebrating Vanessa's success. A photo of her standing in front of a Hayes and Company food truck caught his eye. She was beaming, surrounded by happy staff and loyal customers. The caption read, "Growing stronger every day." His heart twisted painfully. In a moment of introspection, he realized he had no one to blame but himself. Once upon a time, Vanessa had shown him unwavering kindness. He had repaid that kindness with betrayal, and now, karma had come full circle. While Lucas lurked in the shadows, Vanessa's world continued expanding. One crisp evening, after the kitchen staff had gone home, she found Jordan waiting for her outside her office. He held 2 steaming cups of tea and gestured for her to sit on a nearby bench. "You've been working non-stop," he said, handing her a cup. "Thought you could use a break." She smiled gratefully. "I appreciate it. Some days, I forget what a break even feels like." They sipped in comfortable silence. The last golden rays of sunset filtered through the window, casting soft, warm light across their faces. Jordan cleared his throat, turning to face her. "You know, I've never admired anyone as much as I admire you. You took every hardship thrown your way and turned it into something extraordinary." She looked at him curiously. "I couldn't have done it without your help. You gave me a chance when no one else would." He reached out to gently take her hand. "I don't do that for just anyone. There's something about you, your resilience, your heart, that inspired me from the moment I read your story. And in these months working together, He paused, gathering courage. "I've developed feelings for you, Vanessa." Her cheeks warmed, and she stared at him in disbelief. "Jordan, He quickly interjected. "I know you've been through so much. I'd never want to rush you or jeopardize what we have professionally. But I care about you deeply." She felt a surge of emotion well up, a mixture of gratitude and latent fear. Memories of Lucas's betrayal flickered in her mind, but she also sensed that Jordan was nothing like her ex-husband. He respected her, valued her input, and never once tried to exploit her vulnerabilities. Finally, she offered him a tender smile. "Jordan, you've shown me that not everyone is out to break me. I don't know if I'm ready for a relationship, but I'd like to explore this, carefully." He squeezed her hand gently. "Carefully works for me." Their moment felt like the start of a new chapter, not just in business but in life. After all the heartache she'd endured, perhaps there was room in her future for love that wasn't bound by lies or selfish intent. With her personal life hinting at new possibilities, Vanessa poured her renewed energy into a grand vision, converting her mansion, into a destination restaurant. She spent weeks consulting designers and chefs, transforming the vast interior into an elegant but inviting space. Ornate chandeliers illuminated cozy dining sections, each named after a crucial piece of her journey: the eviction room, the car seat lounge, and the dawn kitchen. It was a bold concept, fusing high-end cuisine with her own personal narrative of struggle and triumph. Word of the upcoming grand opening spread quickly, with food critics, influencers, and local celebrities clamoring for an invite. The night of the unveiling finally arrived in a swirl of excited chatter, camera flashes, and the aroma of exquisite dishes crafted by her talented team. Dressed in a stunning evening gown, Vanessa greeted her guests at the entrance. A gilded sign overhead bore the establishment's name, Hayes & Company at the estate. Jordan stood beside her, offering proud smiles to each new arrival. The event was a smash hit from the start. Attendees marveled at the transformation of a space once associated with betrayal into a beacon of hope and culinary delight. In the main dining hall, servers glided between tables, presenting courses that Vanessa had personally helped design. Rustic soups reminiscent of her early catering days, sumptuous entrees showcasing farm-fresh ingredients, and decadent desserts that symbolized sweet victory over life's bitter moments. Applause erupted as Vanessa took the stage for a brief speech. Standing under the brilliant chandeliers, she thanked her team, her supporters, and the countless fans who believed in her journey. With a glance toward Jordan, she noted how this mansion no longer stood for stolen dreams, but for possibilities reclaimed. Outside, a handful of reporters documented every detail, from the menu to the decor. The internet buzzed with real-time updates, praising the ambience, the story, and, of course, the breathtaking food. In one triumphant evening, Vanessa proved that she wasn't just a victim-turned-survivor. She was a visionary who turned her darkest chapter into a masterpiece. The restaurant's success continued to soar. Even weeks after the grand opening, reservations were booked solid for months. Vanessa found herself at a place she never imagined, owning a thriving culinary empire and sharing soft, gentle moments with Jordan, who had become both her partner in business and someone who genuinely cared for her well-being. One afternoon, as she oversaw a private luncheon event in the estate's courtyard, a commotion at the front gates drew her attention. When she went to investigate, her stomach lurched. There stood Lucas, looking ragged and desperate. His once pristine suit was disheveled, and dark circles hollowed his eyes. He approached her tentatively. "Vanessa, I need to talk." Staff members hovered protectively, but Vanessa waved them aside. She crossed her arms, trying not to let memories of his betrayal erode her composure. "What do you want, Lucas?" He cleared his throat, glancing around at the prosperous scene. "I'm broke. I have nowhere else to go. I thought maybe you could give me a job. I can't survive on the street." The air seemed to stand still. The staff and a few curious onlookers halted their tasks, ears tuned to the drama unfolding. Vanessa took a moment to absorb the image of Lucas, now pleading at the same mansion he had once occupied so smugly. "Isn't that ironic?" she said quietly, shaking her head. "I know I don't deserve it," he mumbled, eyes downcast. "But please, if there's anything I can do, dishwashing, cleaning floors. I'm willing to work." Vanessa regarded him with a mixture of pity and resolve. Her voice carried the weight of finality. "I built this place from the ashes you left me in. I stood up again when you expected me to stay down. And you think I would hire you, after everything?" Tears shimmered in his eyes as he nodded, choking on a lump in his throat. "I'm begging you." She stepped closer, looking him squarely in the face so everyone could hear her response. "I don't hire cowards," she said, her tone a perfect balance of calm and cutting. Turning on her heel, she walked away without a backward glance, leaving Lucas to stand there alone, thoroughly exposed under the estate's gleaming archway. Applause broke out among the staff, some quietly, some more openly, as she strode back inside. Within minutes, social media lit up once again, fans celebrating Vanessa's unshakable resolve. For her, it wasn't about public approval anymore. It was about self-respect, reclaiming her worth, and finally burying the ghosts of her past. In the coming days, Lucas faded into obscurity, a cautionary tale of greed and betrayal. Vanessa continued to expand her culinary empire, and in time, she and Jordan deepened their relationship with mutual trust and admiration. The mansion stood as a testament to her resilience, a grand reminder that sometimes life's cruelest blows pave the way for the most extraordinary transformations. And so, with cameras rolling and the internet cheering, Vanessa Hayes closed the door on her old life for good. From betrayed wife to self-made mogul, she emerged not just unbroken, but unstoppable, leaving viewers worldwide with a resounding belief in the power of redemption, and the sweetest taste of revenge they'd ever witnessed. I'm glad you made it to the end. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please go ahead and generously hit that like button and subscribe for more captivating tales like this. We'd love to hear from you. What lessons have you learned from this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next story.